I'm Anne Marie, and thank you for joining today on Achieve Spiritual, Holistic, and Self Improvement Radio. Today we have Joseph Lantern Bear, Joseph Gritch with us, and he will be giving us his memories of sensitive memories about what it's like to be a light worker in school and perhaps not really know what you are until one day you are able to give other people the shock of their life and change your entire persona to them. Hey, Joe, how are you?
Hi, Anne Marie. How are you doing?
I'm doing great.
That's
Um,
good.
so, what is going on in the Joe world today?
Oh, not much. The usual things. It's not that exciting lately. It's just the usual day-to-day things that we all do. It's not exciting the way it seems glamour. I know we seem glamorous,
Yeah, isn't
but
that true? I've had a
yes,
lot
but
of
we're
people
not.
say to me, "You must have a very exciting life,"
No, it's not, and that's fine
and
with
it's
me.
not that way. I mean,
No, it's a very normal life. And when you were saying about how it is to be a light worker and stuff. Well, actually, I didn't really know. I didn't. I still don't really see myself as anything but Joe, actually. But I would say what made people think differently of me was that I was. I wasn't a very popular child, so people had an attitude about me. But when I was in junior college, I took up speech and theater, and I had a speech class, and they started off, it was like a bucket of water in the face when you first start in that class. You had to discuss something. Um, so I did a speech on tarot cards. I did an informative speech about what I knew. And actually, people always kind of looked at me a bit differently after that. I don't know exactly why it would be, but I think maybe they just thought, oh, well, there's another side that we didn't see before. Or it could be seen as, wow, he's kind of spooky. I better keep away from that
so
one.
what year was that, Joe?
Oh, that was a long time ago. I was about seven. I was 18, and it was 1978, and that was when I started college, junior college.
Okay, so we're not giving years then. I would have to say that
It was
for
it was
me,
back in the 70s, and actually that was around the time Stephen King's novel Carrie had come out, and there was also the movie. And I think any teenager that was seen as strange and was treated badly, and then to find out that they're telekinetic and could and wiped out everybody at the prom, made people a little bit worried when they found out that I could read tarot cards and that I knew so much about them. Um, People just act weird around you once they find out. They start treating you differently. Really.
but nobody threw blood on you, on over you, or anything.
No, no, but you see, I think the reason why that imagery was used, it is to sum it all up. Okay, for the sake of story, and for the sake of story, to sum it all up, the final straw that breaks somebody's back is something that is over the top and outrageous and totally unheard of, and so that's the response it got in the movie and in the story, and that's fiction. That's good storytelling.
You know,
It was one of my favorite books at the time, and not that I really actually could identify with Carrie, because Carrie was a weird character, and in the movies they make her seem a lot nicer, but actually she had her own insanity in the book when you read it, because it's a horror story. It's meant to be, but actually Stephen King did say that he based that character on two girls that he was aware of in school that had difficult lives. I mean, they didn't have powers. Most people don't
Yes.
have powers. I don't have powers. We don't have powers. But, and the other thing is, too, is that unlike real life, in these movies, somebody always discovers that they have some deep purpose. Okay. Like to save the world or to kill a dragon or something. They're the chosen one or something like that. But in real life, it isn't like that at all. I mean, you find out that you have an ability, and it's not exactly a big special effect ability, but it's a helpful ability, and you just use it, and that's it. And
Right.
your life is not, you're not out slaying any dragon or fighting some evil force. Well, you are, but you're doing it in your own way by giving some insight to other people who might have questions. you know.
Right.
And so that's why I used the lantern bearer as my title, because I figure, well, look, I'm one of those people along your path that is holding a lantern. You know,
Yeah.
so
Yeah, and that's all we
that's
do.
really
I
the
mean,
best I can
I
do, is to
believe
shine
that
a little
as
light. Right,
light workers or psychics or whatever you want to
right.
say, what we are doing is just shedding light in situations that people ask us about, and telling what we feel or see. Or I had an interesting client today, probably the one that I had to snap off the Skype when I was speaking
Mm.
to you. But
Oh,
it was somebody that said, and interestingly, I have had two kinds of people. I've had the kind of people that refuse to talk to me because I use tarot, and they
oh.
believe that somebody that is truly gifted does not use a tool. And then I have, like today, the kind of woman that said, "Your reading was so much better." And when I talk to people who don't use tarot, I'm thinking, how much of this came from your conception of me, perception of me, and how much can I believe is a gift? And she says,
Uh-huh.
when I go to someone who uses tarot, I believe, yes, they are intuitive, but they have the second confirmation of the cards in front of them. So she looked at tarot as kind of like a helping tool to make sure that the reader wasn't judging or reading um, from the judgment place, or the make
Mhm.
believe place, and that they were getting actual confirmation with the cards in front of them. But later on today, I wanted to go on to our topic, which was, well, first of all,
The
I would like to
empaths,
go
right?
into, yeah,
The
to go
empaths.
into Yep, I would like to go into the 30 traits of the empath with you, and together we can each take a paragraph on that. Also, I did want to go into tarot, the book that is called um, Tarot and Psychology. And tarot and professional psychology is something that Arthur Rosengarten wrote. Sounds Jewish, and and he is a professional PhD that uses tarot in his actual sessions. Of course, people don't have to have someone use tarot in their sessions if
Mhm.
they don't want to, but most people come to him for the same reason that we spoke on, which is they prefer to use tarot in their sessions. And but he can do both. So we'd go into that later. But
Well, it's
I was
four and a
thinking
half stars. People must have liked it.
the book is
Yeah,
yes,
yes.
yes.
So um, good things are said. Um, yeah, I think it's interesting, really, to combine the two, or to use them as part of to use tarot cards as part of the therapy.
Yes.
Um,
Well, I thought that one of the things, and I'll just go through this real quick, and then maybe we can go through to the empath, the 30,
mhm.
And it says, this is another woman who calls herself a forest mystic, and she is also a professional psychiatrist. And she says a beautiful example of how to introduce tarot cards as a healing tool within the context of a professional mental health relationship is described by Arthur Rosengarten in his classic book, Tarot and Psychology, in which he tells the story of a young man in his dying process who has come to work on end of life issues. After focusing several weeks of therapy on his client's relationship to his deteriorating health, exploring his agnostic beliefs and perspective upon death, and supporting open hearted closure with his life partner, friends, and family, Rosengarten realized that the last piece of their work together was to assist his client in finding himself. And he did this with his client through a tarot deck of his liking. He had several decks, and he
Mhm.
told his client to choose which deck the pictures most resonated with him, and then proceeded to design a creative art therapy process to help his client organize the important aspects of his life in a meaningful order through them. So anyway, more and more, and I was speaking with my sister who says that she lives in Madison, Wisconsin, and she knows also a psychiatrist who is now using tarot in the same way they used to use ink blot tests.
Oh, Rorschach or Rorschach is,
Yeah. The ink blot cards. And so
yes.
this guy uses tarot instead and asks his client to tell what he thinks certain major arcana cards remind them of.
Wow, seems like an interesting way to learn the tarot, just to look at them and say, what does it look like to you?
Yeah, or what feeling does that bring out in you? Or, you
Well,
know,
I will say, well, they do certainly bring out certain emotions. I mean, just to look upon some of the cards, some of them can be actually quite disturbing, and they are meant to be, because they are, those particular types of cards they're designed to express a certain emotion or a certain feel. So, and it's an icky feel for some of them. Oh, what's one that's really awful? Nine of Swords. Oh, probably one of the worst cards in the deck. But
the one
not.
where the swords are in his back.
Well, there's one. No, I think. God, is that the one? Or I'm thinking of the one where there are
You have
swords.
I forget, you have the Rider Waite deck in front of you.
Yes, I do.
So
Yes, I do. But we're not going to hunt for that card now. In fact, I'm not going to. I'm not going to make it a big deal to find that particular card. Let's say
okay. But
that.
there are, well, like the death card. I can't remember how many
Well, that's
times I
not a
watched
bad card
movies.
at
I
all.
know, I know. I
Yeah,
don't know.
that's a
I'm
great card.
watching.
Yeah.
Yeah. And people will put this, oh, the
Who
dramatic music
does?
starts and
Yeah.
the death card comes up, but that has
Ace of
nothing to do
Spades.
with death.
Yes. No, it's
Death.
not. That card means a great change. Like, whoop, it's a change. I mean, like your life or things as you are used to are suddenly going to be real. It's usually quite sudden. It's going to change, and that it is time. Or it would be gradual but fast enough so that you are realizing and seeing that, yeah, I'm going through a big change right now. That a lot of times the death card, that is what it means, that it's a change, you
Yeah.
know.
Or death of an old way of life and a new
Exactly.
chapter
A
beginning.
death of an old way of thinking.
Yeah. Yep.
Because sometimes maybe somebody comes along and all of a sudden you're thinking in a way that you've never thought before. Sometimes it's just, or something happens that changes your whole way of perceiving things. So, but
Or how
it's,
about the hangman? There's another overused dramatic card.
yeah, and actually that does not mean being hung.
Oh,
It doesn't mean anything to do with torture or anything. It is a situation, what is it, more of an imbalance, or indecision, or, well, actually, what it is that he's actually standing on one toe or something. So he's standing on one toe to keep from being hung, I guess is what it is.
To me, it always meant a lesson learned. Lessons are finally
Yes,
learned. Transformation into from lessons, the hard lessons in life.
absolutely.
And
Yeah.
so my feeling is that these cards, so many are by the people that really have no idea what they mean, and are going and
Mm.
using them in churches, or using them in to show why these cards are a bad thing. It just proves that they know nothing about them.
No, there's a great deal of imagery in the cards and symbols, and they all mean something. And it depends on what your question was.
Hmm.
There's always a way. There's always an answer to your question. Sometimes it's a card you don't expect. You go, "Wow, that's," sometimes you
Hmm.
don't know why a particular card might come up. And I did tell you that time about, I thought I had removed everything in this deck that didn't belong here. The little commercial cards, the insert cards, the blank cards, and all that stuff. And I had been using the deck for a couple of years after I had removed everything, and everything was fine. And then one day I'm doing a lady for a reading on Keen, and I pull up the blank.
And what did you say? and and what did you say?
Well, actually, I interpreted it.
Yes, I mean
Actually,
you can.
well, because and actually it made a lot of sense when placed next to the cards that it came with. It actually made sense. So I just thought, okay, well, the fact that it came up in her reading and didn't come up 100, 200 times before that, I just thought that was pretty amazing how it didn't even come up at all. And what are the odds of that? It's 78 cards in the deck. So at
Right.
least, at least I found the blank, and I definitely it's not going to happen again. But in her case, it actually made sense, and so it was part of the reading.
I do want to say for
It
anyone.
was recording. Actually, it was regarding a, a personal court case involving some
Ah,
property, and she was upset about the impending date. So, but actually, the card reading I gave her said that no decision's going to be made and nothing is going to happen here. It's
ah,
There's nothing going to happen that day. And what happened was, she's like, that doesn't make any sense. I said, no, no judgment's going to be made. There's not going to be any court. There's not going to be anything. It's just going to be a dead end, and that's it. And that's it. And what happened was she showed up and nobody else did. So they just,
yeah, yeah, yeah. Or your day is a blank slate. Make the most of it.
and her day became a blank slate because it had gotten postponed or something like that.
Ah, yeah,
And it was a last minute thing, or she's there and they weren't. But I always thought, well, look at, if she was there and they weren't, don't they lose? I mean, what? So I don't know
yeah,
how that works.
yeah.
I'm not an expert, but I just assume that involving any sort of a lawsuit of any kind, and it was a lawsuit, that if you don't show up, then I guess you lose, don't you? But that didn't really. I don't know what happened, what came of it. I guess nothing ever came of it. It never resurfaced again. It just went, and
It was a
that's,
blank slate.
yeah. And it was just so odd that's the card that would come up. It's like the blank came up, and that's how I saw it. It's like, oh well, there ain't nothing gonna happen here. It just
And
ain't.
you were right. And you were
Right,
right.
right.
Well, I was going to say, why don't we go into the 30 traits of an empath?
Okay.
And I want to say for anybody that is wants to call into the show or in quick, if you want to watch the show right from Achieve Radio, all you have to do is go to Achieve TV at Achieve Radio. There is also a phone number to call in for a number if you want. And the number is 602 666 6027. And we also welcome anybody that may in quick into the show. So why don't we go into the 30 traits of an empath? And do you want to start out with the first part of it?
Well, what I'm seeing here, according to the article, and they say this, empaths are often quiet achievers, and they're inclined to point out another person's positive attributes. And they are highly expressive in all areas of emotional connection and talk openly. And at times, quite frankly, they may have a few problems talking about their feelings if another cares to listen, regardless of how much they listen to others. However, now those are the extroverts, okay? Now you have the introverts. So the article goes on to say they can be in the exact opposite as well, reclusive and apparently unresponsive at the best of times. They may even appear ignorant. Some are very good at blocking out others, and that's not always a bad thing, at least not for the learning empath, struggling with the barrage of emotions from others as well as their own feelings. So, you could imagine going into a crowd and you're sensitive to all the feelings around you, and maybe you don't like the vibe, or maybe the vibe is okay, but it's just too much. So, those are those people that might wander off, to get away,
Mm.
because it's too much. And even if you're good at tuning it out, sometimes it's crowds make it a lot more difficult because it's a lot more intense. So now the empaths have a tendency to openly feel what is outside of them more so than what is inside of them. Now you have people that are sympathetic, but they're not really feeling it. Okay, they feel bad for you, or they're on your side, whatever it is. But an empath is actually going to feel it, and this can cause empaths to ignore their own needs. So they kind of let them, this can, if they're not careful, that the things that are important for their welfare are just left in disarray. So in general, an empath is nonviolent, not aggressive, and learns more toward being the peacemaker. It leans more toward being the peacemaker. And any area filled with disharmony creates an uncomfortable feeling in an empath. If they find themselves in the middle of a confrontation, they will endeavor to settle the situation as quickly as possible, if not avoid it altogether. If any harsh words are expressed in defending themselves, they will likely resent their lack of self-control and have a preference to peace, peacefully resolve the problem quickly. So they're basically relatively a gentle sort. And of course, not everybody is a perfect person, you know.
I would say also that there are certain things that empaths should avoid. For instance, they're very sensitive to TV and very sensitive to like if they
A general
see
noise sensitivity,
they
I
s-
think.
if they see
Yeah.
like a horrible commercial on
Hmm.
child or animal abuse, it will be enough to keep them up all night. Videos, news, broadcasts. Oh my gosh, the presidential stuff right now is just enough to make any empath go crazy bonkers.
Well,
Violence.
I'm not even looking for the stuff. I'm not, the thing about all the stuff going on, the news and the election process, all the politicians, all the news. There is so much of it that I don't even have to try to find out anything. It just comes at me. I
Right.
mean, just physically, whether I want to or not. I mean, someone always has the TV on, and it's a constant talk, which is very informative, but it's never anything new, and it's never anything that offers a solution or
I
solutions.
think
It's a
I
lot
think
of,
also one of the
talk.
one of the things that I think also happens for a lot of entrepreneurs or empathic entrepreneurs is they tend to have a TV on in the background that is droning things without even listening to it. They're subliminally taking in all this stuff. For instance, it says violence or emotional dramas depicting shocking scenes of physical or emotional pain inflicted on adults, children, or animals can bring an empathic easily to tears. At times, they may feel physically ill or choke back the tears, but some empaths will struggle to comprehend that any such cruelty may have given them difficulty in expressing themselves in the face of another's ignorance, closed mindedness, and obvious lack of compassion. They simply cannot justify the suffering they feel and see from the politicians, from the commercials, from the
Oh, yeah.
movies, and they just are a walking basket case. Now, this can be carried on at work as well. When you watch the shocking attitude of people around you and the political cruelty sometimes that is inflicted from one person at a job towards another person or towards, like you said, at school. If you
Oh,
are
yeah.
empathic, it almost becomes hard to even function when you cannot block. And that's
Hmm.
why blocking is so important, I think, as well.
Well, you have to, and you cannot worry about any of that stuff. I mean, you really do have to block it. And so, yeah, sometimes having the TV on helps. I always, what I used to do when I would write stories, I'd work on my novel, I would have the TV on and I'd have the laptop on my lap or on the coffee table with my legs stretched out under the coffee table. I'd be on the floor and I would watch TV and type and write at the same time, not just typing, which is mechanical, but I actually, making up a story as I go along. But I was able to, it was easier for me to do it if I was splitting up my brain in with two different activities.
Oh, gosh, yes. I
And
can
so a
totally
lot of
get
times I would
that.
have music on too, but a lot of times it was the TV, and it would drive people around me crazy. It's like, are you watching this or not? It's just like, leave it on. And it's just like, but you're not watching it. You're reading. You're doing. Because I used to also read while it just drove everybody nuts. Like you can't do both. What I,
Multitasking.
I can do, I can do both. So allow me to do both because I'm enjoying myself. I always
Right.
had a fight about that. It was always something, it always drove people crazy that I would actually be doing something else.
And funny, it's funny you say that because when writing, sometimes I could get really good ideas by splitting my brain like that.
Yes,
And then suddenly a
yes.
phrase would be said. I don't know
Hmm.
why you feel that way, or something like that. Then all of a sudden it would come up. Why do people feel,
That
it can
way.
be projected into the story. And only you can change it and branch it in a million different directions the way you want it. Um,
Well, what's
it-
interesting is that sometimes every now and then you get a sync where you reach the same thought at the same time something else is reaching nearly the same idea at the same time.
right. That is very.
Yeah, but I used to. Well, I would rather have my stereo on from when I would do artwork and stuff like that. Stuff that was. I just liked having those vibes in my brain activated by certain music, and so my choices were usually things like Pink Floyd and King Crimson and the Alan Parsons Project. I absolutely love. It must be something that they have. It has to do with the way the music hits our brain waves. So I think that depends on what you like regarding music. It's pretty much of a reflection of what your brain waves are doing. Did we lose you, Anne Marie?
Yeah, Joseph.
Oh, hello. Yes, I was just noticing that the picture was pixeling. Are we on the air currently, or did we lose Anne
We're on
Marie?
the air, but Anne Marie memory has disappeared. It showed
Oh,
disappeared on
okay.
Empath.
Well, we were
So
talking about the empaths, so
hang
I
on.
didn't
She's
really.
back.
What I'm seeing is the
Are you
difference.
there, Anne Marie?
Yes.
Oh,
Okay.
well, there she is.
Yes, I'm sorry. For some reason, my call dropped.
Okay. Well, they say that empaths have actually are said to be excellent storytellers because they have an endless imagination usually, and they're inquisitive, and they have a desire for always ever expanding knowledge. Well, it's not a bad thing
No,
necessarily, I
it's not.
suppose. Yeah.
It's a great
Hmm.
thing. So, I guess, the main thing that I feel is important from all this is that so many children that are considered, like you said, the kids that are picked on or the kids that have a hard time in school. I
Hmm.
believe that are so oversensitive, and they are of a higher or a different frequency than many of the kids that they are around who
Well, they
kind of
definitely would be giving off a different vibration. I believe that it does make people feel differently. And unfortunately, the very young sometimes react
act
badly to things that are
different.
different. And it's because of very often, it's not always their parents' fault, but sometimes the nuts don't fall far from the tree, as they say, or
Right.
the apples don't fall far from the tree. It depends
Right.
upon, you have to consider the households of where these kids who are intolerant come from and what are their lives like. And I think that point needs to be made to anyone who is having a bad time. It always helps to actually make them think about really, okay, this really sucks. This sucks. And it has to be dealt with because it's not going to go away. But you also have to know where this person is coming from so you can deal with it better, so you have a better idea how to deal with them. You know what I'm saying? Uh, Everybody has a reason for their behavior. It's not always a very good reason, but there's always a reason for it. And sometimes it's a reaction to vibes that they don't understand, or sometimes they're just plain mean because of things going on at home.
Hmm.
You know, and so what you have here is that you have a kid who's not happy at home, and he sees a walking target he knows is not going to kick his butt, probably.
Mm. Yes.
And it's somebody else to change the focus off their own life, because now we have somebody that everyone has a target. And it's unfortunately what happens is it's very often the same target. So one person might say, I only tease this person or bother this person maybe once a week. But then there's about maybe 20 other people that have this same little habit. So
You
it's
know,
the, you know.
I remember when I was in
Yeah.
school, when I was a kid. First of all, I was ADD, or I had what I call additional dimension disorder. Both my parents were teachers. Both my parents were teachers, but I kept, having this fan, this different layer that was running in the back of my head all
Mhm.
the time, and it was like louder. The compassionate side of me and the part of me that was constantly reading the kids around me
Mhm.
became so crippling. It was actually crippling that the only way that I could resolve it was through art or music.
Mhm.
So when I got to where I could actually plunk a guitar or to draw detailed pictures, then all of a sudden I got the respect from other kids. But then they said, oh, okay, she's different, but she plays music and she draws.
Uh-huh.
People are always more compassionate with artists for some reason.
Well, now, but if you're a man and you're an artist and you draw and you're talented, a lot of times you're still not given respect unless you are
Oh,
involved in sports.
really?
Yeah.
But the girls always loved bad boys in school,
Yeah.
and they
Well,
didn't
yeah.
really necessarily like the football guys.
We had there were certain categories when I was in school, and of course there are probably far different ones now, and there's probably more of them, but it was usually pretty basic. We had your greasers. Those were your bad boys. Those were the guys with leather jackets,
Okay,
and
what was a greaser? That was a bad boy
greasers were
with the
tough
leather
kids. They were
jacket.
the bad kids, right?
The bullies?
And well, then they were kind of vanishing around the time that I was there, but they were the tough bad boy kids. And then you had your jocks, and there's a
Mhm.
lot of them because I mean they got the most exposure in school because they were so cheerful. And then you
Nerds.
had your art students and your
Mhm.
theater students. Theater students were the next ones that you saw a lot of, and then you had your artists and your freaks and your stoners, and your burnouts, and so. But actually, art, I would say art has always been something that was my escape, and I had learned to tune out things very early at an early age. I had to, and I had to tune them out very early. And I remember doing it very early, because I drew a lot. I did a lot of art at a very early age, and I was always very good. And I was always way ahead of everybody else in my age group, and I think that's why I never had to deal with having to filter anything out. I started at a very early age. After one experience I had once in the middle of the night, where I was seeing everything. I was seeing shapes in my room floating, and they wouldn't go away. And they
Mhm.
didn't go away when I closed my eyes and rubbed them and opened them again. They were still there. And I think ever since that time, I had learned to block out, because I found it very distressing to see
Oh,
those
yes.
things, and when I didn't want to see them, and they wouldn't go away. And it was just really odd. And but actually, and they were people. They were faces. They were people, and people in different, wearing clothes in different time periods. All this floating, swirling all around the room like white mist, just woo. And it's just like when you're like 5 or 6 years old, it's very frightening to awaken and see all that. And I didn't watch movies. I didn't watch horror movies,
My parents
and
would never let me.
I didn't like those until I was older, because actually that was kind of a cheap thrill for me. Because
Mm.
I like the horror elements in storytelling. It's a challenge, and so I'm looking at it from a technical viewpoint. But I like that. I like science fiction a lot, and actually most of my approach to the tarot and any kind of psychicness has more of a science fiction basis, because I do believe that it's a natural ability, and I believe it's one of those things like either you're talented in some way, or not, and I believe it's something that comes natural to a person. You
Do
know.
you think that I have do you ever use tarot in ways that are relevant to your day?
Yeah.
And
To my
what is
day,
that?
relative to my day, relevant to
Mm.
my day, you said?
Well, like for me, I was reading somewhere that
Like
someone
tarot of the day?
like they say it's never wise to read your own cards because all human beings lie to themselves.
Well, and the other problem with that is that we're looking at it from the inside out, and then we're asking advice from something that we ourselves have to interpret.
Right.
So then we run the danger of, are we telling ourselves what we want to hear,
Are
or
we being like the
are we
client we
reading?
can't stand?
Well, are we somehow reinforcing our own decision, or our own thing? So yeah, I try not to do that. I mean, if I'm going to do I would actually I would sooner have one of those automatic card readings that you see online sometimes, where you click on it, it self shuffles, and it supposedly it shuffles your these digital these CGI cards, and you've seen those, haven't you?
Yeah, I
Is
have.
it?
I've once in a while I've used them, but I tend to feel like the I guess
It's
I'm
very
I'm more
basic. It's very basic. I mean, they don't give you any. They just tell you what the cards mean in general, and they
right.
just lay them out
And you
for
just
you.
kind of click on different on a deck
Right. You
of
go, well, you have to kind of make it. You have to. It's not really a very personal thing, but again, it's a machine that's giving you a reading. So what do you expect? So,
yeah.
but now
I
as
did
for
want to.
how
I did
random,
w-
I mean,
one.
can you get the same random effect though? Can you get the same random cards that you would get by hand? I mean, because true random means that the same cards can come up again and again and again. That's the true randomness but if you have a program, is it programmed to have those same odds, or has it been changed so that to be random, no card comes up more than once? You know what I'm saying? I
Mhm.
worry about the shuffling process. I don't know how accurate that would be if it's mechanically shuffled. I just don't know if it is.
Well, I guess when I think about once in a while, if and I do this once in a while,
I might
if
do it
I
for
just
fun.
and I read this somewhere, it's just a one card reading. You may say, what energy do I need to focus on today? And I will just shuffle and pull one card. And sometimes it's more a reflection card, a card to
Hmm.
reflect on,
Hmm.
rather than a card of great meaning. But it seems that it
I
seems
like
to
doing
at
that.
times be
I have
helpful
done
if I
that.
wake up in a fog.
Yeah, I have done that. I used to do sometimes on occasion. I do the card of the day on Facebook. I haven't done it
Hmm.
for a little
Hmm.
while, but I do. I go through periods
Yes.
where if I feel it, I do it. Um,
Hmm.
and actually, it is not. It is a card. What I think about when I shuffle and when I draw the card is, what is the card that me and everybody who knows me here, or anybody who might see this, what is the card that is the one that we need to think about? Or what is the card that we need to reflect upon? What is the idea? And so that's what the card of the day is for when I do it. It's sort of like, this is what, in general, anyone that has seen it today would say, this is the card I need to think about today.
Okay.
Okay, I have an
We have
idea.
three people in quick,
Yeah,
and I thought
uh,
maybe we might want to
we should do
look
a
at.
reading.
We only have 12 minutes and 44 seconds, so we're going to have to
Nice.
do flash readings. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
The first one that I'm looking at is from Russell from Ohio, and he says, I have a few interviews last week. Any look good for me?
Well, we'll find out. Let's see. Okay. Well, what we have here is the three of. What I'm getting here right now is the Three of Pentacles in his future, and I'm seeing that uh, I'm seeing a period of no compromising. Like I would say that he's going to go through a period where he's going to be tempted to be a little more selfish because of what he wants. But what I'm seeing is that things are going to work out if he could uh, maybe think less about what he wants, needs versus wants, and actually, I see it working out as long as he's open and considerate of what other people need. There is a tendency that you might think that, like, well, you might have to be a little bit ruthless, and I see it actually working out by not being ruthless.
I have, you said you had three jobs. The first job looks as if they saw you as pretty easygoing, and it looks like that first job may be a good one, possibly a good possibility. The second job you applied for, I do not see a return on. The third job is the best one I see going for you. That one seems to be the one that might give you a possibility of climbing. And the third one is seen as something that is the best one that you may get a return on.
You know what?
However, and comment on what Joseph said, you may decide that there are certain things that these jobs have to offer you that you aren't satisfied with, which may give you a tendency to overanalyze or procrastinate about making a decision, which in turn could cause you to lose the possibility of getting the job. So again, first job, I see a good chance. Second job that you applied for, no. Third job, actually a better choice of all. But be careful of procrastinating and be careful of trying to ask yourself, as Joseph said, do I, what are my expectations? Is it giving me enough? Because if
Uh-huh.
you do that, you will lose all of them.
I see, because the Three of Pentacles are upside down, I'm seeing it as that you will decide that the one that is the most self-fulfilling and the one that makes you feel the best is the one that you would go for. It's like you're going to decide that there is something that is more important than a higher salary. And I see that being the better choice, actually. So, but I see you going for something. You're making the decision. I see you making the decision of how do you want to spend your time and where do you want to go every single day. And so I see you taking the one that gives you self-worth over salary.
Which I
Okay.
saw as the third job.
Yeah, I just see that one.
But you
So
have a
that's what.
3 too, so that makes
Yeah.
sense.
So the Three of Pentacles. So
You both came up
it's
with 3.
yeah, it's threes. So yeah,
Okay, we have one from Jan from
yeah.
LA, and she says, Anne Marie and Joseph, do you see any changes coming up for me in the next 2 weeks? Love your show, thank you. And this is for Jan, and we hope you're still there. I know you were been on for a while.
Yeah, yeah. We were gabbing about empaths, and then we had some technical difficulties, and
Yes.
I wasn't really quite aware of that either. I was just like kind of like looking at my screen, trying to figure out what exactly happened. Okay. Well, I am seeing that. I'm seeing that you're being advised, if in the near future, is to not take shortcuts in something that you're trying to accomplish, or something that you must deal with. And since it's justice upside down, I am seeing that it is. You might possibly have to deal with court, or possibly a law might be broken in your presence in some way or another. So, or you might see some injustice being done. I'm seeing a reaction to injustice, but I'm seeing that you might even actually be participating in a court procedure of some kind. So I am seeing that in your immediate future, something to do with debt resolution of some kind. But I do see you making plans for that, and I'm seeing that you're being advised here that be patient.
Oh my God. Thank you. I'll tell you what came up for me.
Hmm.
Be patient.
Yeah, well, she has to be patient now because it's a
It said
process
it
she's
said
going through.
it said
Yeah,
she has a huge ambition that she wants to accomplish. But the problem is that she has to be way more flexible with how she makes
I'm
her
seeing
goal
that it
happen.
has to do with legalities because we have justice. So there is some sort of
Well,
a.
whether that's legality of her own or of her choice, or whether it's an actual legal
Well,
situation.
that's true. Some sort of thing that is possibly the rules of what she's trying to accomplish. Like there's a certain way it's done. So she's being told that she has to be patient and go through the things that she must do to make it legit, or to get through it. And that's what
So,
I'm
and
seeing
and
for
I would
Jan.
add to that that also she needs to get out of her comfort zone. So
Yeah, well, it's
many
going to
of
be
us want
uncomfortable.
to accomplish something, but we're not willing to get out of our comfort zone. And then
Mhm.
we go, oh, wow, wow, wow. Why didn't something happen for us like we wanted it to? Well, baby, it was because you didn't get out of your comfort zone.
Well,
Get out
yeah,
of your comfort zone, Jan, because if you don't get out of your comfort zone, you're going to be patient for the wrong thing. In other words,
right.
if you're patiently waiting for everything to fall in your lap, but you're not willing to make the changes out of your comfort zone, what's going to happen is stagnation.
You got to take action.
Take action. Okay, we have Emily, and she says, "Hi, Anne Marie and Joseph. I'm
Hi,
interested in
Emily.
knowing if you see employment for me in the near future. Thanks so much."
Yeah,
It's a biggie, isn't it?
yeah, it is. Well, uh, I am seeing that there are some positive aspects. Uh,
4 minutes, Joe.
that, huh? Well, I do
We
see
have four.
things working out regarding. I see it um, as she's being happier with the relationship, which is odd. It's not a relationship card, but it could be something to do with work. That in the near future, now since I have the Three of Swords, that's upside down. I would say that would be maybe within three weeks to 3 months, where she's going to find another opportunity or an opportunity period. So
I would
I'd
say
say hang
that
in
in
there.
agreement with that, Joseph, because I came up with four that
Yeah.
says for 3 months she will face her financial insecurity, with the fourth month
Yes.
or the end of the third month going into February, March, end of April, beginning of May as employment. So
Spring.
my feeling is the same as Joseph, three, but more like the end of that month in April, and we hope that you have good unemployment to get you
Yeah.
through. Joseph,
Yeah.
do you have a quick prayer that you like to say before we close?
Okay. How about let's bring in some good energy before we close.
Absolutely.
We could do the energy thing of
Okay. 3 minutes.
you taking a deep breath. I bring the cosmic forces into my being, asking for strength, protection, and guidance. I bring the cosmic forces into my being, asking for strength, protection, and guidance. I bring the cosmic forces into my being, asking for strength, protection, and guidance. Help me do
Beautiful.
well today. Yes.
Beautiful.
So,
And you know
yeah.
what? Where can people reach you if they want a reading again, Joseph?
Well, I'm on Keen under the Lantern Bearer, or
Are there certain
and
hours that
you
you're
can
on?
find me on Facebook as Joseph the Lantern Bearer. But if you want to just post or add interesting things or say things, but if you want a reading, call me on Keen. And if you just want to talk about stuff in general, like what we talk about on the show, or we want to post something, that's great. I use Facebook for that. That's
Okay.
cool.
Good.
Yeah,
And you can reach me at thecallingoflight.com. That's
absolutely.
thecallingoflight.com, or at Keen, where you will call, where I'm known as Sister Ophelia. So I thank you very, very much for joining me as always, Joseph. And uh, we're going to have Joseph on a couple of times next month as well, if he is willing. And
Sure. That'd be great.
absolutely. Okay. Hoping
Okay.
to that you will all have a beautiful week. If you're empathic, to remember not to allow the politics and the TV sets and everything to
Hmm.
overwhelm you. And to remember that there is a beautiful book for tarot and professional psychology, and it's called Tarot and Psychology: Spectrums of Possibility by Arthur Rosengarten. The link is on my blog, or on the blog with Joseph and I. Go ahead, click on it. You can get that book at Amazon. All right, Joseph, take care and
Take
have a
care.
great. Yep. Bye
Okay.
bye.
Bye bye. Thank you.